Shalom, family. Welcome to another teaching from Teo Ministries. The title of this lesson is Hebrews, Ibriy, or Yibir. This is going to be one of those in-depth studies on our history and our people. As you know, Teo does not follow the 12 tribes chart. It's an obvious lie, obvious COINTELPRO program to hinder the awakening. And so, Teo's goal is to deliver truth, to deliver the straight truth of the scriptures, the straight truth of our history. Nothing that is self-driven, hopefully, that we are all led by the Holy Spirit, led by Yeshua, led by our Father Yah. Our goal should always be to do the will of the Father. It should not be to increase our own kingdom. Our goal should be to serve our Father because we love him. And so at Teo, we endeavor to serve Father Yah. We endeavor to serve Yeshua. And so that's what we strive. And, we go through a lot of issues and, there's a lot of challenges we have to deal with. And sometimes it gets very difficult just to do it. But, I ask for your prayer for me and my brother in this ministry. Abraham the Hebrew. Genesis 14:13. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. So Abram was called a Hebrew, Ebriy, when you look at the Hebrew. Ebriy or Ivory. Adjective, proper noun, patronymic form. Okay, so one of the things we need to understand, family, is the idea of transliteration. As you can see, the transliterated pronunciation of Hebrew is Ebriy. And so when dealing with English Bible, we need to make sure we understand that the words that we read are transliterated. Okay? That means it's really based upon the pronunciation. So family, we see that Ebriy, or pronounced Ibriy, or Ebright, i.e. Hebrew, or descendant of Eber. So remember, family, we're not really truly dealing with Hebrew. One, we're dealing a lot of times with a Yiddish brew, a lot of times, and then here we're dealing with a transliteration of the word used or pronounced as Hebrew. So let's understand this is a transliteration of the word to the English. So where are the Ebriy or the Hebrews? To find the Ebriy, we must first understand that the reason the Gentiles called us Hebrews is because of the idea of transliterations. Transliterations occur when trying to translate words from other languages. This happens more than you think. This is what many fail to realize when getting into debates about names in the Bible. So, family, let's look at the definition of transliteration. Transliteration, what is the difference between transliteration and translation? A translation tells you the meaning of words in another language. A transliteration does not tell you the meaning of the words, but it helps you pronounce them. So remember that, family. Transliteration helps you pronounce them. So it doesn't mean that word is specifically spelled that way. It's more so how to pronounce that word that was in another language. So transliteration changes the letters from one alphabet or language into the corresponding similar sounding characters of another alphabet. So, Romanization of Hebrew. Hebrew uses the Hebrew alphabet with optional vowel diacritics. The Romanization of Hebrew is the use of the Latin alphabet to transliterate Hebrew words. For example, the Hebrew name spelled Israel in the Hebrew alphabet can be Romanized as Yisrael and Yasrael in the Latin alphabet. So, family, a lot of us say this. We say Yisrael, right? Well, that's not really how you would pronounce it in Hebrew. Or let's say the Paleo Hebrew, which is the true language. The Romanized version is what we're using a lot of times. Yisrael. So instead of the I, we have the Y. Or we have the Y and the I, like here, Yisrael. That helps with the pronunciation, which is the transliteration of the word. So Romanization includes any use of the Latin alphabet to transliterate Hebrew words. Usually it is to identify a Hebrew word in a non-Hebrew language that uses the Latin alphabet, such as German, Spanish, Turkish, and so on. Transliteration uses an alphabet to represent the letters and sounds of a word spelled in another alphabet, whereas transcription uses an alphabet to represent the sounds only. Romanization can do both. To go the other way, that is, from English to Hebrew. See Hebraization of English. Both Hebraization of English and Romanization of Hebrew are forms of transliteration. Where these are formalized, these are known as transliteration systems, where only some words, not all, are transliterated. This is known as transliteration policy. So family, this is why sometimes when you look at the Hebrew of a word, you'll see two different words or more, right? Because of the different ways it was translated from one language to another, all the way back to Latin, back to English. So you might see, Ibriy, Ibriy, Eber, because of transliteration to get these sounds correct. Pronunciation of Ibriy to Eber. So as we were just mentioning, family, another way of transliterating the word for Hebrew is Eber. The pronunciation is Aber, Eber. Now, some of our African brothers and sisters might say Eber or Ever, right? So we have to understand that it's a complex thing to really truly understand the Hebrew word in a English or Latin or Greek context. It's probably a little easier to understand it in Greek. But we must understand there's a lot of transliteration going on, which is how do we pronounce that in English? So is it Ibriy or Yibir or Eber? What's the difference? Remember, we're dealing with transliterations. So Ibriy or Yibir or Eber, pretty much, if we deal with the phonetics, are very close in pronunciation. Romanized aspect. So adding to what we have learned about the romanization of a word within the process of transliterating words into the Latin or English language, it is highly probable that Yibir is the same as Ibriy or Eber, similar to how the Europeans translated or transliterated Ibriy to the word Hebrew. Remember, we're dealing with the phonetics, with the sounds. So how do we pronounce the word Ibriy, Eber, Eber? Okay. Somalia. Could it be that some of the Hebrews are in Somalia? Really? Why would we look here? As we've discussed in previous shows, the Hebrews were all over Africa. They were in East, West, and Central Africa. This is where many are today, except for the diaspora. The descendants of the Atlantic slave trade were scattered around the world as slaves, just as the scriptures prophesied. It is not clear which tribe the Yibir are from, but they are Hebrews, and based upon the curses and the fact that they are circumcised, they are probably Israelites as well. So family, there's a tribe in Somalia called Yibir, or Yibir, or Eber, however you want to pronounce it, with the like we did with the transliteration, and they are called the Yibir. The Yibir are known to be what? Hebrews. Not only are they known to be Hebrews, they are known to be Hebrew Israelites. And they are a black tribe. And they have been going by that identity for a long time. And their language, they won't speak around other nations. They won't speak their language in front of the Somalian people. They keep it within their own culture, within their own group. So who are the Yibir, or Eber, or Ibriy? The Eber, or Yibir, in Somalia is one of the few known Muslim communities worldwide that maintains Jewish descent. So the Yibir never wavered from being Hebrew, never wavered from being Jewish. The community is small and tightly knit, numbering not more than 30,000. The name Yibir, also pronounced Yibro, and Yahar simply means Hebrews. So think about that, family. Yibro, Hebrew, Hebrew, Igbo. Okay? Remember, we're dealing with transliteration. That's why a lot of times people have issues and have trouble understanding why we can say, Yeshua is the same as Jesus. And you all say, well, there was no J until like a few hundred years ago. Well, you don't understand the idea of transliterations. And from, how it came from the Greek, from Jesus, right? And then to English, to Jesus. And so, the Arabs call Jesus Isa. So I'm making this statement, family, so you can understand. We're dealing with transliterations, and so the less sophisticated of us will make a big deal out of some of these things without understanding how we got to where we are with the words and why we got to where we are with the words. And there's a science behind transliteration. So despite the wide array of research on African communities of Jewish descent, the Yibir have received minimum interest from academicians. No significant studies have been conducted on the group, making the Yibir one of the most forgotten world populations. So family, why is that? Why aren't the academicians researching the Yibir? Maybe it's because they have a strong case for being the true Hebrews. Not only being of Hebrew descent, but being the true Hebrew Israelites, one of the 12 tribes. There's not a lot of information on the Yibir. Pronunciation. So, as we can see from the article, the name Yibir can be pronounced in a few ways. The name Yibir, also pronounced Yibro or Yahar, simply means Hebrews. Here we can see the possible transliteration from Yibir to Ibriy, right? So think about it. Remember, family, we're talking about transliteration to another language. Yibir, Ibriy, Yibir, right? Eber. We can also determine where the Gentiles got the pronunciation of Yibir wrong. One of the ways to pronounce Yibir is Yibro. Thus, we can see the transliteration could have been Hebrew or Hebrew. Remember, the slave advertisement stated that they were selling good Hebos. Now, many of us just thought about the Igbo, right? Because we know a lot of Igbos were on there, but a lot of Hebrew as well. See, this is what happened during the transatlantic slave trade and over the centuries, even before when our people went into Africa and were scattered amongst the continent and, forgetting who they are, getting involved with other nations and, being oppressed and enslaved and all these things. So anyway, another transliteration is what we have here, family. So this occurs when coming into another language system. Now, I know for some of you, you're not going to get it, and that's fine too. If you're happy with the whole simplification of the whole thing, that's cool too. I do think we need to up our game, because when you go up against the Gentiles, family, they are educated. They are educated more so than some of us. And so sometimes when you all come out there and confront them, you don't win. You think you win, but you don't win. You say things like there's no J. And they'll come out and tell you about transliterations. And you're going to be like, huh? So that's why we're trying to prepare you, family. So yeah, you can, you already have some of the history. But we need to have a full understanding of what happened to Israel and who they are and where they are. Israel was a huge nation. Israel still is a huge nation, even though we lost millions. So find Hebrews. So they sold us, right, the same thing as Negroes. Hebrews are the same as Negroes. And we've seen that over and over. And the Portuguese called us Negroes because the Hebrew Israelites are black people. A people who are dark, red, brown, a little light brown. You know, some of them even may have had albinism, because we see that in the scriptures too, that happened. So family, we have to be more sophisticated in our understanding. So Yibir, remember, it could be Hebrew or Hebrew. Remember, we're dealing with transliteration and pronunciations. And, some people are just not going to get it, and that's fine. Hebrews. The article also shows us that the definition of the word Yibir means Hebrew, just like Strong shows us the definition of Ibriy means Hebrew. The Yibir in Somalia is one of the few known Muslim communities worldwide that maintains Jewish descent. The community is small and tightly knit, numbering not more than 30,000. The name Yibir, also pronounced Yibro, and Yahar simply means Hebrew. Thus, we can see the validity of the idea that transliterations is the reason for the variance in the name, although they are very close phonetically. Remember also that the language called Hebrew today is really Yiddish brew, a mixture of Yiddish and Hebrew. Yibir are at the bottom. For at least 8 centuries, the Yibir have lived amongst the pastoralist populations of northern Somalia. There, the populations are divided into different clan groupings or tribes. A strict caste system traditionally organizes the clans into a fixed hierarchy of noble to inferior. Being one of the lowest castes, the Yibir constitutes one of the poorest populations in Somalia, if not the poorest. Furthermore, the Yibir are not considered as ethnic Somalis or Samil. Instead, they are traditionally classified as Sab, i.e. the ethnic category that encompasses migrant and smaller groups of low caste. Other Sab groups include the Mus, a small group of Arabic ancestry, the Tumal, and the Madiban, small clans of ambiguous roots ancestrally related to the Yibir, and the Bantu. So here we see, family, that the Yibir is related to the Bantu, and we know that the Bantus are Israelites. And some of these other ones, like the Madiban and Tumal, are related to the Bantu. Same people. So migrant populations primarily from Central Africa. Accordingly, the Yibir are seen as inferior and landless. A popular Somali myth presents the Yibir as wandering scavengers of human carcasses. Small clans of higher caste shrug from the Yibir and do not conventionally intermarry with them. As a result, the Yibir mostly marry within their own community. So, family, the Yibir are cursed. Deuteronomy 28 curses apply. The Yibir are also circumcised. And in some of the other teachings we had, we discussed how some of the Israelites converted to Islam and became Muslim to survive. Worshiping wood and stone. Somalia minorities. Minority clans or tribes in southern and central Somalia include the Ashraf, Midgan, Bantu, Brevanese, Banjuni, Ramor, Al, Galagala, Tumal, Yibir, Gaboye, Hamar, Hindi, and Oromos. Yibir have unique language. Yibirs and Midgans, i.e. a tribe closely related to the Yibir, are both very jealous of their languages and keep them a secret from other Somalis. Although all speak the common language of the country, namely Somali, there are, I believe, no Somalis who know anything of either dialect. And while I was having my interviews with these people, they were very particular not to allow any Somali within hearing, our conversations having to be carried on in the latter's language. So, could it be that they speak the traditional Paleo-Hebrew? I would think so. Yibir origins, or Hebrew origins. In 2000, New York Times journalist Ian Fisher conducted a breakthrough interview with the Yibir community leader Sultan Ahmed Jamaa. The Sultan was not secretive about his Hebraic heritage and indicated that the prejudice his people experienced in Somalia essentially goes back to their Israelite heritage. He also pointed out that members of the community, particularly the youth, are often ashamed of their Yibir identity as a low caste. Accordingly, they often identify with other clans of higher caste, or the other tribes of higher castes. Yibir, crypto-Muslims. Yibir folklore suggests that the community's ancestors converted from Judaism to Islam in the 13th century. Since scholars believe that Sharif Yusuf lived in the early 13th century, the events of the traditional narrative involving the Sharif and the Yibir leader Muhammad Hanif would accordingly date to the same century. And although the name Muhammad Hanif is evidently Muslim, it is perhaps possible that the Yibir did not entirely abandon Judaism until Sharif Yusuf subjugated them. In any case, and as indicated, Somali traditions claim that Muhammad Hanif was not a true Muslim and seem to suggest that he was of a different religion. So the Yibir were I guess I put crypto Muslims, but I would say they really were crypto Jews, right? Because they're hiding their Judaism. So to the world, they're pretending to be Muslim. So I guess this would be better stated, crypto Jews. Earlier arrival than Somalians. Traditionally, the Yibir claimed that their Jewish ancestors arrived in Somalia prior to the formation of the major noble Samael clans, i.e. Darood, Dar, Hawe, and Isaac, while Samael clans commonly trace their paternal lineages in 9th century Arabian ancestors. Some scholars have suggested that the Darood and Isaac were only founded in the 13th century. If this is true, then the Yibir are also likely to be older than the Samael clans. That is because the Yibir were presumably already established as a powerful group in Somalia by the time of Muhammad Hanif in the 13th century. So family, we see that the Yibir were there first, older than the other clans. Yibir are related to Ethiopian Jews. Although the question as to how Judaism has arrived to Somalia has not been previously researched, certain Yibir cultural features seem to indicate that the community has branched out of an older Beta Israel Ethiopian Jewish population, as reported in John Intinet's Abraham's Children. Genetic evidence has confirmed that the formation of the Beta Israel goes back approximately to the 4th or 5th century. Both groups, the Beta Israel and Yibir, are perceived as outcasts by their host populations and are associated with magic and superstition. The Beta Israel are known in Ethiopia as Falasha, meaning exiles or outcasts in ancient Ethiopic. The Beta Israel are also strongly associated in Ethiopian traditions with the Buddha, a magical or evil supernatural entity that can inflict curses on the locals. So Beta Israel has also stated that they are from the tribe of Dan. So this means that Yibir would be as well. Ethiopian territory is the same area that Eldad the Danite, or Eldad Hadani, stated that he came from. So, family, when you start digging into this, you realize that, probably every single European, every single Muslim know who we are. And, I told you about the Muslims I've met who said they've always known who we are. And the more you dig, it's like, bam, right there in your face each and every time. There's no denying who we are, which is why the Gentiles, very few of them speak about who we are. Only the most righteous Gentiles with a heart to serve the Most High Yah speak about who we are. Because they feel in the back of their minds that if they don't say anything, it's going to go away. It's not going to go away. This is prophecy. The New York Times, Djibouti Journal, Somalia's Hebrews, see a better day. The Sultan of the Jews in Somalia is a handsome, silver-haired man named Ahmed Jama Hersi, who does not know the first thing about Judaism. He is a Muslim, as were his ancestors back at least 800 years. But he and his people are treated badly, cursed as descendants of Israelites. The name of the tribe is Yibir, or Hebrew. Even our young people, he said, they are ashamed when you ask them what tribe they belong to. They will not say Yibir. Not much is known about the lineage of the Yibir, one of Somalia's Sab or outcast clans. But if Somalis succeed in creating a new central government, as they have been trying to do since March, the Yibir will for the first time taste political legitimacy and respect. In the 225-member assembly envisioned for a new Somalia, the Yibir get 1 seat. So family, what we see here is that they were known to be Israelites. And they were known to have converted, supposedly, to Islam. And we see that all throughout our studies. And we see how a lot of our people were forced to convert to Islam when Islam spread through Africa. So, it's understandable, in order to save their lives, they put on the front of being Muslims. No plans to practice Judaism. The Yibir not only know nothing about Judaism, but they also say they have no intention of converting, or like the Ethiopian Jews seeking resettlement in Israel. That would only make more problems, said another Yibir, Muhammad Ali Hassan, a trader in the Emirate of Dubai on the Persian Gulf. So family, they keep using this term Judaism, and I don't really like that term, but I understand why they use it. Because they're trying to refer to the practice of the religion of Judaism, as opposed to discussing their ancestral, lineage from Abraham, from Isaac, right, from Jacob, right. They use the term Judaism because that's how they think. Because as opposed to talking about a family who were called Ibriy or Yibir, or Yibir, or Eber. Instead of talking about a family, they talk about the religion. Because if you focus on the family, then you understand that the Ashkenazi cannot be true Jews. You understand, that all of these people who are claiming to be Jews are more than likely what? Of the synagogue of Satan. Because that's what the scriptures tell you. There are those who say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. So if you focus on the religion and not on the ethnicity, right, then you can sort of muddy the waters and include everyone. So we're going to continue here, fam. So clans in Somalia. Report on a lecture by Joachim Gundel, COI workshop. May 15, 2009. Yibir Hebrew claims. Yibir, the Yibir or Yibro, some find Yibro is a mispronunciation. Live along the coast in Mogadishu and in Bosaso, Borama, and Burko. In the south, they are described as being distinct from the Gaboye, that's one of the other clans. The Yibir are often claimed to be descendants of early Hebrews who settled in the Horn of Africa. According to Virginia Luling, the Hebrew idea is not an anti-Semitic invention by others, but was and is maintained by the Yibir themselves, who have found in this a way of dignifying their outcast status. However, while this Hebrew descendancy is disputed, it is not entirely baseless, while it is true that the 1970s produced a myth about their descent. So, family, what we have here is, admission that the Yibir have always considered themselves Hebrews, have always considered themselves Jews. And now Virginia Luling says that it's not entirely baseless. So the claim is not entirely baseless. So if the claim is not entirely baseless, then that means there's some truth. And if there's some truth there, the only truth there is that they are Hebrews. So they like to play with words. They like to play games without just straight up lying to your face to say, well, yes, they were known to be Hebrews. They've always considered themselves Hebrews. They've been known as Hebrews. See, these people know who they are. They know who we are. There is no doubt. The more you do the research, the more you find out the truth. And see, I think, what I find with our people is that, we have to belong to a group. We have to belong to a clan. And that's who we are, right? Because we are tribal people. The problem is sometimes we get mixed up with the wrong groups and we get misled. And so then we get caught up in what we call religion. Because now we're part of these groups and they're going to tell you what to do. Whereas being a Hebrew Israelite is a genetic descent. Okay? It has to do with who your ancestors were. Then we deal with what the practice was of those people. And that practice was a religious practice for those people to serve their God. But religion does not bring you to the Most High. Why? Because religion does not please the Most High. Faith pleases the Most High. Because He knows that your effort is worthless. Your effort is filthy. Your righteousness is as filthy rags, which is why Messiah had to come, which is why Messiah had to die for you, to impart his righteousness to you so that you can have a way to fellowship with the Father. Now, as we've said in many of our teachings, Yeshua came and brought grace and brought faith. Because as I've shown you in other teachings, that the flesh was weak. I believe that was in the Greater Than Moses video. The flesh is weak. So even though we had the list of laws, we always failed to keep them. And we always failed to keep them perfectly. And so some of us today say, well, I'm trying my best. And I understand where you're coming from because you think, well, I got to have laws to follow. But see, the difference is being led by the Spirit. See, this was the ultimate goal, family, is to be led by God Himself, not on the list of 10 commandments that you have, not on the list of 613 laws that you have. It was always meant to be led by God Himself. Well, you're going to have to get there on your own. You're going to have to seek the Most High on your own. It's an important matter. But that's why our people got in trouble in the first place, because, then they started doing their own thing. And they started putting in their own laws. And then they start worshiping other gods, and that's what got them kicked out the land. Historical merit to the Yibir claims was related to a political effort at discrediting them. This is a continuation from the previous page, family. Was related to a political effort at discrediting them by playing in anti-Semitic sentiments. There is some historical merit to the notion that ancient Somali people prior to Islamic Christianity did have a connection to Jewish or similar religion. So pretty much, family, she's saying it's true. Right? Don't tell me about historical merit or a notion. Okay? Because you're telling me there was a connection to Jewish or similar religion. No, what you're saying is they are the true Jews and their claims are valid. But you want to play the political line. You want to walk the political line. You want to be politically correct. And the present group may derive from the losing part in an ancient religious dispute at Barkado, a religious center commemorating Sheikh Yusuf al-Konin in present-day Somaliland, which still is a location of pilgrimage located between Hargeisa and Berbera. This, however, needs more research outside our present scope. So, once again, she said they are the true Jews. I mean, do you read it any other way? That's how I read it. They are the true Jews. They are the true Hebrews. They are the Eber. They are the true Yibir. Everybody knows but you. It's amazing how people don't seem to care. I mean, I talked to a whole bunch of people, especially you find, with the women, because, our black women, they're a lot more successful than most of our men. Not all, but they're more concerned about their careers as opposed to who they are, and that they need to be restored to a relationship with their God. As for me, family, I want out of here. You know what I'm saying? Babylon can go tomorrow. I'm ready to leave here. Because there's nothing but murder, death, kill, sickness, torture, deception, lies, all in America. And we get blinded by the big buildings and the nice cars and the food. I mean, I ain't saying, it's not nice, but you know what? A lot of that stuff comes with a cost. And we can't even see the cost that we're paying. Some people who don't have as much as America is doing a lot better health-wise, doing a lot better mental-wise, because they're poisoning us. And they're doing that in Africa as well. I mean, it's a global attack on Israel. But see, here's the thing, family. The Gentiles, the only time they're going to step up to protect you is when they see God moving. Because right now it's going to cost them most of them, it's going to cost them to say, yes, the Negro is the true Hebrew Israelites. It's going to cost the Gentiles. It's going to cost them. And why do you say it's going to cost them? The reason I say it's going to cost the Gentiles to recognize who you are is because some of their families will disown them. Some of their friends will disown them. And some of them aren't willing to pay the price. Which is why you hear few speak up and say, hey, y'all touching God's people. Y'all killing God's people. Y'all murdering God's people. Because they like their family more than the Most High. That's why the Most High said, if you love family more than me, you're not worthy of me. If you love son or daughter more than me, you're not worthy of me. Some of them love family more than they love the Most High. There's very few that want to come out and stand up for Israel. But we can see all across the globe, Israel is at the bottom. And Israel is hated. And Israel never knew why they were hated. They thought just because of who we are, but for some reason they hate us. Did we do something? I don't know what we did these people. I don't know what we did these Muslims. I don't know what we did these Europeans. Why does the world hate us? Well, I don't know what we did to these Asians. Why does the world hate us? Because of who you are. And they know who you are. But see, the pendulum is starting to swing back our way. The truth is being proclaimed. And like I said, family, this is not one of those like exciting teachings, but I thought it would be good to put in your pocket. Your book of information, your book of history, your book of supporting documentation for who you are. Sometimes we need to have this information. Most people can't stand up to you with what you have already. Add this to it, they definitely won't. So family, if you like what we do, please become a Patreon member. If you're blessed by this ministry, please support our ministry as a Patreon member. And family, just to let you know, we have to make sure that we are doing our best to be truthful. We have to make sure we're doing our best to be also, I would say, and I don't know if this is the best word, but academically sound. Because a lot of people, they twist things. And And like I stated, if you're going to go up against a group of people that's more educated than you are, because as a whole, most Europeans are more educated than blacks, more educated than the Hebrew Israelites. They can get smashed if they don't have the correct information. They can get shut down and look silly if they don't have the correct information, which is why, if you notice, the Gentiles that come out and attack this awakening, they go after the camps. Why? Because the camps are low-hanging fruit. It's easy to dismiss their stuff. It's easy to dismiss the 12 tribes chart. Now, they say if you repeat something, long enough, people become, are able, come to the point of believing it. So, when they talk about their 12 tribes chart, Native Indian American, Hispanic, Mexican, when they repeat that 100,000 times, you're going to get Gentiles even coming and say, oh, you know what? The black man is the Hebrew Israelite of the Bible. So it's the Native American and Mexican and Indians. You repeat the lie long enough, people are going to believe it because they don't do their research. As I've shown here and in other places, most of Israel is still in Africa. Most of Israel is a Negro people. Most of Israel are dark-skinned. Most of Israel had married Hamites. Most of Israel is people of a darker hue. Now, we do go amongst the range, especially those in the diaspora, of all colors now. But in Africa, most of them are darker hue. And I think we need to stand up for the truth. I think we need to be honest that is our brothers and sisters in Africa. Because it really drives me when people talk about those Africans. No, that's my people. My people live on the continent of Africa. That's where my ancestors came from. That's my people. Now, granted, I see all throughout Africa the same disunity that we have here in the States, the same disunity we have all over the place, which is why I find it amazing when I look at the scriptures, the Most High states He's going to bring us all back together. I'm like, wow, only God can do that. Only God can bring together the 12 tribes scattered amongst the nations, bring together people who, have American traditions, British traditions, Haitian French traditions, Spanish, Portuguese traditions, Indian traditions, Chinese traditions, because Israel's been slaves all over the world, Arabic traditions, various belief systems. But the Most High says He's going to bring back the 12 tribes and make them one nation again. That's impossible for anyone but the Most High Yah. Only God can do that. So anyway, family, this was just one of those teaching lessons. Hope you enjoyed it. I know it's not going to get a lot of views, but I think it's good to have. I think we need to increase our knowledge, as I stated. Shalom, family. Your captivity is ending.